January 26th, 1945. 0900 hours. Holtzwihr, France. A 19-year-old kid is about to climb onto a burning tank and stop 250 Germans with a machine gun. His name is Audie Murphy. He weighs 112 pounds soaking wet. The Marines rejected him. The Navy rejected him. The paratroopers laughed him out of the recruiting office. Too small, too light, too soft. The Army took him only because they were scraping the bottom of the barrel in 1942. Now, 3 years later, that barrel-scraping mistake is standing in a frozen forest in eastern France with 18 men, watching 6 German tanks roll toward his position with a full infantry company behind them. The math doesn't work. 18 Americans, 250 Germans, 6 Panzer IV tanks, no anti-tank guns, no reinforcements, no time. Murphy knows what's coming. Everyone knows. The ground in front of them slopes down into a shallow valley, then rises again about 400 meters out. Perfect tank country. The kind of terrain where armor appears suddenly, hull down, turret swinging, already firing before you see the tracks. Behind the American position, nothing. A few supply trucks, a field hospital, a road that leads straight back to division headquarters. If the Germans break through here, they punch a hole 3 kilometers wide into the American rear. The air is 8 degrees Celsius, cold enough that your breath hangs in front of your face like cigarette smoke, cold enough that metal sticks to bare skin. The trees are skeletal, stripped of leaves by months of shelling. Snow covers the ground in patches, stained brown and grey from vehicle tracks and old craters. Visibility, maybe 600 meters through the morning fog. Murphy walks the line, checks his men. Most of them are replacements, kids even younger than him, fresh off the boats from America with 3 weeks of training and 0 combat experience. They huddle in shallow foxholes, gripping their M1 rifles with hands that shake from cold and fear. One of them, a private whose name Murphy barely remembers, looks up at him with wide eyes. "Lieutenant, we gonna hold this?" Murphy doesn't answer. What's he supposed to say? That the odds are garbage? That division command expects them to delay a battalion-strength attack with less than a platoon? He just nods and keeps walking. Behind him, parked near the tree line, sits an M10 tank destroyer. Designation, 3-inch gun motor carriage M10. Crew, 4 men. Armor, thin, 37 millimeters on the front. Barely enough to stop rifle rounds. It's already been hit once. A German 75mm shell punched through the side plates an hour ago. Didn't detonate, but the crew bailed anyway. Smart move. The fuel tank is leaking. Smoke curls up from the engine compartment. Flames lick at the hull. Inside, somewhere in that metal coffin, 54 rounds of high explosive ammunition are getting warmer by the minute. Murphy stares at it. Burning, abandoned, useless, except for one thing. Mounted on top of the turret, a Browning M2 50 caliber heavy machine gun, belt fed, effective range, 1,800 meters, rate of fire, 450 rounds per minute, weight, 38 kilograms, still loaded, still pointing roughly toward the enemy. The sound comes first, that low, grinding growl of diesel engines, then the shapes. 6 dark holes, rolling over the ridge 500 meters out. Turrets swiveling left and right, searching for targets. Behind them, lines of grey-clad infantry, maybe 200 men spread out in a textbook assault formation, moving fast, using the folds in the terrain for cover. One of Murphy's men starts shouting, "Tanks! Tanks front!" No shit. Murphy grabs his field radio, calls division artillery, gives them coordinates. Within 90 seconds, American 105mm howitzers start dropping shells into the valley. Explosions ripple across the open ground, geysers of frozen earth and shrapnel. The barrage slows the Germans, forces them to spread out, but it doesn't stop them. Tanks don't care about artillery unless you hit them directly, and infantry will crawl through hell if their officers push them hard enough. The Germans keep coming, 400 meters now, close enough to see the individual figures moving between the trees, close enough to hear the clank of treads on frozen ground. Murphy makes a decision, not a heroic one, a tactical one. He can't stop 6 tanks and 250 men with 18 riflemen, but he can make them bleed. He can slow them down long enough for someone behind him to set up a real defense. He turns to his sergeant. Pull everyone back into the woods. Set up a fallback line 200 meters behind us. What about you, Lieutenant? I'm staying. Someone's got to call fire. The sergeant stares at him, doesn't argue, knows better. Within 2 minutes, the American line evaporates. 18 men melt back into the trees, leaving Murphy alone on the edge of the field with a radio, a carbine, and a front row seat to his own death. 300 meters. The lead tank fires. A 75mm shell screams overhead, detonates in the trees behind him. Shrapnel hisses through the air like angry hornets. Murphy doesn't flinch. He's been under fire for 2 years. France, Sicily, Italy, Anzio. He's been shot twice, blown up once, and caught malaria in between. Fear is still there, always there, but it doesn't control him anymore. It just sits in his chest like a stone. He adjusts artillery fire, calls in corrections. Shells walk across the valley, chasing the German advance. More explosions, more smoke. The attack slows but doesn't stop. 250 meters. Murphy looks at the burning tank destroyer, looks at the 50 cal, does the math. From up there, elevated 3 meters above ground level, he'd have clear lines of fire across the entire valley. He could rake the infantry, suppress the flanking groups, make the tank commanders button up and fight blind. He'd also be standing on top of a vehicle that could explode at any second. The heat hits him first. Even from 5 meters away, the air above the M10 shimmers. Flames crawl across the engine deck. Black smoke pours out of the crew compartment. Inside, ammunition cooks. Small pops and cracks, like firecrackers in a tin can. The smell, burning oil, scorched paint, melting rubber. The kind of smell that gets into your lungs and stays there. Murphy runs toward it. His boots hit the hull, metal hot enough to feel through the leather. He pulls himself up onto the turret, ducking past a tongue of flame that licks out from a vent. Heat slaps him in the face. His eyes water. His throat burns. Somewhere below him, 54 high explosive rounds are seconds or minutes away from turning this wreck into a crater. He doesn't think about it. Thinking gets you killed. He grabs the 50 cal, swings the barrel toward the oncoming Germans, pulls the charging handle. The bolt slams forward with a heavy clack. He presses the butterfly trigger. The gun roars. Not a sound, a force. Each round punches out of the barrel with enough energy to tear through brick walls. The recoil hammers into his shoulder, his chest, his bones. Brass casings the size of his thumb spray out in a glittering arc, clattering off the turret, rolling across the deck. The noise is so loud, it stops being noise. It becomes pressure, a wall of sound that erases everything else. 200 meters out, German infantry hit the dirt. Men who'd been advancing confidently suddenly discover what it feels like to be on the wrong end of a heavy machine gun. The 50 cal doesn't wound, it destroys. A single round can punch through a tree trunk, keep going, and kill the man hiding behind it. Murphy rakes the gun left to right, walking fire across the infantry line. Bodies drop. Others scramble for cover, diving into ditches, crawling behind rocks. Anything to get out of that murderous stream of lead. One of the German tanks stops. Turret swings toward him. Murphy sees it, knows what's coming. A 75mm gun aimed directly at his burning perch. If that gunner is any good, this is over. The tank fires. The shell misses, high, screams over his head and detonates somewhere in the trees. Murphy doesn't stop firing. He shifts aim, targets the infantry clustered behind the tank. More bodies fall. The German advance staggers. Company commanders scream orders. Soldiers who've been trained to move under fire suddenly can't, because moving means dying. From the woods behind him, American soldiers watch. One of them, a corporal named Tipton, will later write, "I thought he was dead already. I was just waiting for the tank to blow and take him with it." Murphy's leg explodes in pain. Not an explosion, a bullet. Something hot and fast punches through his right calf, spins him halfway around. He catches himself on a turret ring, grits his teeth, and keeps firing. Blood soaks into his boot. He doesn't look at it. Looking at wounds is how you panic. The radio crackles. Division artillery asking for corrections. Murphy, standing on a burning tank, bleeding, firing a machine gun with one hand, picks up the radio handset with the other. Fire mission. Adjust 200 meters north. Enemy infantry in the open. His voice is calm, precise, like he's ordering coffee. Shells land. German soldiers vanish in clouds of dirt and shrapnel. The attack breaks apart. Small groups scatter, trying to flank, trying to find cover, trying to do anything except die in that kill zone. Murphy tracks them with the 50 cal. Wherever they go, the gun follows. Belt after belt feeds through the weapon. Hundreds of rounds, maybe 1,000. He loses count. 1 hour. That's how long he stands there, alone, on fire, bleeding, fighting an entire company. When the Germans finally pull back, the field in front of the M10 looks like a slaughterhouse. Bodies sprawl in the snow. Equipment litters the ground. Abandoned rifles, helmets, backpacks, blood trails leading back toward the tree line. Official estimates will later say Murphy killed or wounded more than 50 men in that single engagement. Some historians think the number was higher. Murphy climbs down from the tank destroyer. His hands shake, his ears ring. His leg throbs with every step. He limps back toward the woods, radio in one hand, carbine in the other, looking like a man who just walked out of his own funeral. Tipton, the corporal, runs up to him, stares, mouth open. "Jesus Christ, Lieutenant, how are you alive?" Murphy doesn't answer. He just looks back at the burning wreck, at the field full of bodies, at the tanks retreating into the distance. Then he says, very quietly, "Where's the rest of the company?" Because for Audie Murphy, stopping 250 Germans with a machine gun on a burning tank is not the end of the story. It's just the beginning. Chapter 2. The most decorated soldier America never wanted the burning M10 tank destroyer sits behind him, still smoking, still ticking like a bomb that forgot to explode. The field in front is littered with German dead and wounded. Murphy's right leg is bleeding through his boot, leaving dark spots in the snow with every step. His ears ring so loud he can barely hear Corporal Tipton shouting questions at him. But Murphy isn't thinking about his leg, or the ringing, or the fact that he just survived something no one should survive. He's thinking about the next attack, because the Germans aren't done. They never are. Holtzwihr sits on a critical road junction. Lose it, and the entire American supply line in this sector gets cut. Division knows it, regiment knows it, and sure as hell, the Germans know it. This morning's assault with 6 tanks and 250 men wasn't a probe, it was a statement. We're coming through here, whether you like it or not. Murphy gathers his men in the tree line. 18 soldiers, most of them pale and shaking from watching their lieutenant turn into a one-man firing squad. He does a quick head count. No losses during the German assault. A small miracle. He checks ammunition. Rifles mostly full. 2 machine guns still operational. Grenades running low. The M10 is gone. 20 minutes after Murphy climbs off, the ammunition finally cooks off, turning the wreck into a fireball visible for kilometers. A runner arrives from battalion. Clean uniform. Looks like he just stepped out of a recruiting poster. He stares at Murphy like he's seeing a ghost. "Sir, battalion wants a situation report." Murphy wipes blood off his hands onto his pants. Looks at the kid. "Tell him we held. Enemy attack repelled. Estimated 50+ casualties inflicted. We have 1 wounded. Me. Position is still viable." The runner blinks. "Sir, they're asking if you need to be evacuated." Murphy almost laughs. Evacuated. As if there's anyone else who can hold this position. As if these 18 terrified kids can stop the next wave without someone who's done this before. "Negative. I'm staying." The runner salutes and runs back toward headquarters, probably thinking Murphy has lost his mind. February 1945. 3 weeks later. Field Hospital, France. Murphy's leg finally forces him off the line. The bullet wound gets infected. Doctors dig out fragments, pump him full of sulfur drugs, tell him he's lucky he didn't lose the leg. While he's lying in a hospital bed, paperwork starts moving through channels. Witness statements, after-action reports, medal recommendations. Lieutenant Audie Murphy, 3rd Infantry Division, Company B, 15th Infantry Regiment. On January 26, 1945, single-handedly stopped a German combined arms attack by climbing onto a burning tank destroyer and engaging an estimated 250 enemy soldiers and 6 tanks with a 50 caliber machine gun. Fought for over 1 hour despite being wounded. Called in artillery fire while under direct enemy fire. Killed or wounded more than 50 enemy combatants. Refused evacuation until enemy attack was fully repelled. The recommendation goes all the way up. Division, Corps, Army. Eventually, it lands on a desk in Washington, D.C. Someone reads it again, calls for verification, gets sworn statements from Tipton, from the artillery observers, from every man who watched Murphy stand on that burning wreck. The paperwork comes back with a single word stamped across the top. Approved. Medal of Honor. The highest military decoration the United States can award. Fewer than 500 men received it during all of World War II, most of them posthumously. Murphy will be one of the rare ones who lives long enough to wear it, but he doesn't know that yet. All he knows is his leg hurts, the war is still going, and he needs to get back to his company. June 1945, Germany. The war ends. By the time the shooting stops, Audie Murphy has been in combat for 3 years. He's participated in campaigns across North Africa, Sicily, Italy, France, and Germany. He's been wounded 3 times. He's killed so many enemy soldiers, he stopped counting somewhere in Italy. He holds every single combat decoration the US Army can award, plus several from France and Belgium. He is 20 years old. The skinny farm kid from Texas, who got rejected by every branch of the military, is now the most decorated combat soldier of World War II. 33 awards and medals, including Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star with V device, 3 Purple Hearts, French Croix de Guerre, Belgian Croix de Guerre. When he returns to the United States, the army doesn't know what to do with him. He's too famous to disappear, too young to retire, too damaged to pretend everything is fine. Because behind those 33 medals is a 20-year-old kid with what we now call PTSD. But in 1945, they just called being jumpy. Murphy can't sleep without a loaded pistol under his pillow. Loud noises send him diving for cover. Crowds make him sweat. He has nightmares about burning tanks and German infantry and fields full of bodies. But in 1945, you don't talk about that. You smile for the cameras. You shake hands with generals. You do what heroes are supposed to do. Hollywood, 1950s. Someone in Hollywood sees Murphy's face on a magazine cover and thinks, that's a movie star. Baby-faced, soft-spoken. Looks like he couldn't hurt a fly. Perfect for westerns. Murphy makes 44 films between 1948 and 1969. Westerns mostly. Low-budget action movies. He's not a great actor. His range is limited. His expression's often flat. But audiences love him because they know. They know what he did. They know that when he points a rifle at the camera, he's done it for real. In 1955, Universal Pictures releases To Hell and Back, based on Murphy's autobiography. Murphy plays himself. Critics call it propaganda. Audiences pack theaters. It becomes Universal's highest-grossing film for 20 years. There's a scene in the movie where Murphy climbs onto the burning tank destroyer. Hollywood waters it down, makes it cleaner, less brutal. Because the real version, the version where a 19-year-old bleeds through his boot and keeps firing until the barrel glows red, is too much for 1950s audiences. Murphy watches the premiere in silence. Later, someone asks him if the movie got it right. He says, nobody gets it right. You can't. Not unless you were there. May 28, 1971, Brush Mountain, Virginia. Audie Murphy dies in a plane crash. He's 45 years old. The small private aircraft he's traveling in flies into a mountain during bad weather. No survivors. By the time rescue teams find the wreckage, there's almost nothing left. He's buried at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors. His grave becomes the second most visited site in Arlington, right after John F. Kennedy's. Thousands of people visit every year. Veterans, school children, historians, people who want to stand in front of a simple headstone and remember that once, a skinny farm kid nobody wanted climbed onto a burning tank and stopped an army. The headstone doesn't list all 33 medals. It doesn't need to. Just his name, his rank, his dates. Audie L. Murphy, Texas Major, Infantry, World War II, Korea, June 20th, 1925, May 28th, 1971, Medal of Honor, DSC SS LM BSM, and OLC PH and 2 OLC Legacy. Today, the US Army names buildings after Audie Murphy. Training facilities, parade grounds, armories. The Audie Murphy Club honors the most outstanding enlisted soldiers. His story is taught at West Point, at infantry schools, at every leadership course the military runs. But the real legacy isn't in the buildings, or the medals, or the movies. It's in the fact that on January 26, 1945, when every logical calculation said to run, a 19-year-old chose to climb onto a burning tank instead. Not because he was fearless. He was terrified. Not because he wanted to be a hero. He just wanted his men to live. That's the part they don't put in the movies. The part where heroism isn't about glory. It's about a farm kid from Texas who weighed 112 pounds, got rejected by everyone, and still decided that 18 American lives were worth more than his own. The burning tank destroyer at Holtzwihr is long gone, scrapped for metal decades ago. The field where 50 Germans died is now farmland, peaceful and quiet. But somewhere in that French soil, if you dig deep enough, you might still find shell casings, brass, 50 caliber, fired from a gun that should never have been manned, by a soldier who should never have survived. Audie Murphy proved them all wrong. The Marines who said he was too small, the Navy who said he was too weak, the Germans who thought 250 men and 6 tanks were enough. And on that frozen morning in 1945, standing on fire and steel, he became something the world had never seen before and will probably never see again. A hero who didn't want to be one,